Casamigos in the B&B. Real killers in the B&B. Bunch of hammers in the B&B. She on my body in the B&B.
Picture this. A man lies shot, bleeding out on a suburban street. Police officer leans in close, hoping for one final clue that can solve the crime. "Who shot you?" he asks. With what might be his final breath, the victim whispers a name that belongs to a local rapper just starting to make waves.
King may be better known in the rap world as Mizzie Cash, an aspiring Boston rapper with many YouTube videos displaying his music, some glamorizing weapons and money. But prosecutors say on Saturday night outside Simmons' home, it was King who approached Simmons and shot him in the chest. Simmons would later identify King to investigators before he died at Boston Medical Center Saturday night.
There's two victims, the guy that's being charged and the young man that lost his life. So there's no winners in this case.
Young man with not enough structure in his life, and he didn't realize the consequences of taking another man's life.
Outside today's arraignment, Marquis Simmons' family and friends talked about how Myles King was arrested 2 years ago in front of their Milton home, sitting in a stolen car with a loaded weapon. The same.
Everything points to a conviction. But against all odds, the rapper walks out of court a free man. No prison, no life sentence. Acquitted. That rapper was Mizzie Cash's name. Myles King, and his case still echoes across the streets of Boston. Was justice served, or did a killer walk free? To understand how this story even reached a courtroom, you have to look at the two lives it forever changed. On one side was Myles King, better known in Boston's underground rap scene as Mizzie Cash. A Mattapan native, King was young, hungry, and grinding hard to carve out a name for himself. His lyrics were raw, often reflecting the street life around him, and he didn't shy away from showing the rough edges of his environment. Influenced by Tupac and the pain of his upbringing, King's music was about survival, loyalty, and betrayal themes that would later haunt his legal case. On YouTube and social media, he built a brand rocking his signature Mizzy chain, performing in flashy music videos, and slowly becoming one of the city's rising rap voices. Then there was Marquis Simmons, 25 years old, fellow artist, a contractor by trade, and someone deeply loved by his community. Friends called him supportive and kind, and his mother described him as her heart. But here's the twist: King and Simmons weren't strangers. They were once friends. That friendship soured, and police had already taken note. In 2019, 2 years before the murder, King was arrested in a stolen car outside Simmons' house with a loaded gun under his seat. That case never led to a conviction, and prosecutors couldn't prove Simmons was the target, but it raised red flags. It planted a seed in law enforcement's mind. Something wasn't right between these two, and that tension was about to explode. July 10th, 2021. It was a warm Saturday in Milton, a quiet town just outside Boston. Around 6 p.m., gunfire rang out on Beaver Road. Marquis Simmons had just parked his moped near his family home and was walking down the street when he was shot multiple times. He collapsed on a patch of grass between the sidewalk and the street. When first responders arrived, they found him still breathing, still conscious, but barely holding on. Gasping for air, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the chest, Simmons was in critical condition. Knowing time was slipping away, a police officer leaned in and asked, "Who shot you?" According to the officer and the prosecutor, Simmons managed to whisper just 2 words: Mizzie Cash. That moment became the cornerstone of the case. In legal terms, it's called a dying declaration, a statement made by someone who believes they're about to die, about how they were killed or by whom. Courts treat dying declarations with serious weight, under the idea that a person facing death has no reason to lie. For prosecutors, it was the smoking gun. Simmons was rushed to Boston Medical Center, but he never made it off the operating table. He died that night. And as his family grieved, police were already honing in on the name he gave them. Witnesses reported seeing a black Mercedes fleeing the scene. A woman was seen trying to switch license plates on a similar vehicle nearby. That vehicle, police said, had ties to King. The puzzle pieces were falling into place. Within 24 hours, Myles King walked into the Milton Police Department and turned himself in. King was charged with first-degree murder, a charge that in Massachusetts carries a mandatory life sentence without parole. He was also hit with multiple weapons violations. At his arraignment, he pleaded not guilty and was held without bail. Another arrest followed. Brianna Gardner, King's reported girlfriend, was charged as an accessory after the fact. Prosecutors said she tried to help King cover his tracks, including hiding the car used in the getaway. Assistant District Attorney Adam Lally took the lead in building the case, using a three-pronged strategy to secure a conviction: the dying declaration, King's history with Simmons, and King's rap career. The first pillar, the dying declaration, was emotional and powerful. A man using his last breath to name his killer. That's as gripping as evidence gets. Then came the history. Prosecutors brought up the 2019 gun arrest to paint a picture of an ongoing feud of vendetta that escalated over time. Finally, they made the bold move of using King's rap persona, Mizzie Cash, against him. Lyrics from his songs were played in court. Social media videos showing guns, flashy cars, and street bravado were introduced as evidence. To the prosecution, this wasn't just art, it was a confession. But then came the defense, led by well-known criminal attorney Rosemary Scapicchio. Her job was to dismantle everything the state had built, and she did just that, brick by brick. First, she attacked the dying declaration. Was Simmons truly conscious? Could he even speak clearly? Was he in any state to identify his shooter? She raised the possibility that Simmons, in his final moments, simply named the one person he had issues with, not because he saw him, but because that's where his mind went in a moment of panic and trauma. Next, she addressed the 2019 arrest. It didn't result in a conviction, she argued, and had nothing directly to do with the murder. The prosecution was trying to get the jury to punish King for an old mistake he wasn't found guilty of. But it was the third part, using King's rap lyrics, that became the most controversial. Scapicchio insisted that music is performance. Rap is storytelling, not testimony. You don't arrest an actor for playing a villain in a movie, so why treat a rapper any different? Mizzie Cash, she argued, was a persona.
Oh.
An entertainer, not a murderer. And beyond all that, she hammered home one point the jury couldn't ignore: there was no physical evidence. No murder weapon, no fingerprints, no DNA, no surveillance footage of King pulling the trigger, no eyewitness who saw him shoot Simmons. It all came down to a name whispered on the edge of death, and a past the prosecution tried to weaponize. The trial dragged on, both sides pushing their version of truth. And then it went to the jury. Inside Norfolk's Superior Court, emotions ran high. For the Simmons family, this was their chance at justice. For King, this was about freedom or life in prison. The jury had to answer one question: did the prosecution prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Myles King murdered Marquis Simmons? After hours of deliberation, the verdict came in: not guilty. Shock rippled through the courtroom. King had beaten a murder charge that once looked like a sure thing. After more than 2 years in custody, he walked out a free man. For his supporters, it was a triumph of the legal system. For Simmons' family, it was a devastating blow. Their son had named his killer, they believed, and still, no justice. The streets buzzed with debate. Some said King got away with murder. Others argued the system worked exactly as it should, refusing to lock up a man without proof. Today, Myles King is back online, reportedly returning to music and life as a free man. When a case hinges on words whispered through pain with no hard evidence to back it up, can justice ever really be certain? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives like this, from rap culture to courtroom dramas, subscribe to Boston Body Count.